My sister-in-law filmed my delivery without my consent, sold it for $60,000, and made me a meme. Now she's facing prison for her betrayal. Some years ago, my sister-in-law Ashley wanted to influence. 18,000 followers, poor interaction, requests family participation. I always refused. I like privacy, especially while pregnant. My explanation was clear. No birth, baby shower, or pregnancy footage. My spouse Ryan helped me pick a hospital without recording limitations. Ashley was sad, yet helpful. Your birth, your rules, she laughed. She even volunteered to wait outside during childbirth. My water broke at 1:30 a.m. Ryan contacted his family on Tuesday while we rushed to the hospital. Ashley came an hour later with coffee to keep everyone updated from the waiting room. The nurse encouraged Ryan to take a 5-minute break when transition labor left him pale and overwhelmed. I could barely speak through the pain when Ashley stepped in. "I'll stay with her," replied. Through contractions, Ashley held my hand and encouraged me. Gratitude came to me. When Ryan wanted a break, Ashley alternated. She witnessed me shouting, wailing, exposed, and pleading for an end. After our daughter Ava was born at 8 p.m., Ashley cried with us, took some photos we allowed, and embraced me like she was part of something special. 4 weeks later, my phone exploded. Missed calls, messages, updates. My stomach dropped as Mom inquired, "Saw Ashley's post?" She said she didn't film. I cried after Ashley's viral video of my sister-in-law's failed birth. She carried cameras in her handbag, coffee cup, and blouse. A 20-hour documentary showed me in full view, crowning shots, angles Ryan hadn't seen, me sobbing that I wanted to die, screaming at Ryan that labor was his fault, the doctor discussing my third-degree tear in graphic detail, me defecating while pushing, and my body at its most vulnerable. Comments were cruel. Calling Ryan, I cried. Someone made a meme from my best moment. Vagina was meme. The worst wasn't embarrassment. She made almost $60,000 in 3 weeks selling unedited film to a birth fetish website for $39.99. I ran home. Be quiet. Ashley uploaded more film, and I couldn't stop watching. My postpartum sister-in-law doesn't know I'm recording. Breastfeeding agony videos. Bloody postpartum pads and garbage. Did you give Ashley permission for the documentary? Ryan slammed the door at home. I phoned a lawyer. Ryan's mother called. It's too late, I responded. Doc? It's everywhere, even on porn sites. Prime Media acquired a new program. You signed a release. A release signed the day I gave birth. I was stunned. Ashley handed me a clipboard during transition. Hospital needs this signed, she said. Pain-induced delirium. I signed blindly. Ryan called Ashley and put her on speaker. Just substance, she added. Dramatic, all give birth. You sold her vagina footage, he said. Educational material increasing awareness. She signed, she worked, binding. My lawyer confirmed. Just took the phone. Take it down or I swear, you can't ruin me. My nude body displayed on the hospital website, and people sent me DMs that night. I purchased your birth video. You were prettier pregnant. Stretch marks though. Yikes. My wife fainted watching you push. Too graphic. Ashley prepared a sad video about our success bullying. Her fans stated we were envious, rude, and controlling. My principal contacted a week later. Parents saw tapes. I taught kindergarten. Ashley's act continued. She agreed to provide all birth mother footage for 2 years. Lawyer stated the situation. Although troublesome, the release form will take years to challenge. Her texts suggest you asked her to film. The lawyer scowled as Ryan added, "Get everything, our fame will increase." She emailed these while pressing. Tonight, local news said, proving she had your phone is possible, but difficult. A delivery room nurse stood out, and the hospital missed. I observed many concealed cameras. We're filing a joint lawsuit. Received call from unknown number. Is this Ava's mother? Producer at Netflix. We're doing a consent and social media abuse documentary. We want exclusive rights to your tale and deconstruct Prime Media's claim. I simply want the videos gone, I said. We can make that happen, but you need to see something first. He sent Ashley's private Instagram to start. At one point in her months-long staging, she grabbed me and forced me to labor. The producer remarked, "She's done this before." I gazed at the producer's email, which revealed Ashley's private Instagram site where she planned Project Birth for months, and the lines, "Slip her Pitocin during visit, make my hands shake so violently I nearly dropped." She drugged me to induce labor without consent to record it. Ryan reads over my shoulder and goes white before grabbing his car keys and saying he's going to Ashley's to confront her. I stop him at the door and call David Mitchell because charging their irate may hurt our legal case. Netflix's privacy attorney told us we can't contact Ashley because we require law enforcement for drugging proof, which raises the case from privacy breach to assault. Using a recognized detective tonight. At 10 p.m., Detective Ramona Gilmore and another officer take my phone's Instagram screenshots at our house. She claims Ashley faces multiple criminal charges for giving medicine without authorization due to covert cameras and exploitation. Before my water broke, Ashley arrived. What did she offer me? Did I eat or drink her gifts? I drank the whole cup of herbal tea she gave me that afternoon for late pregnancy discomfort since I believed her. Ramona uses Ryan's confirmation that he saw her alone in our kitchen for several minutes to tamper with my drink. She takes the teacup in our sink as evidence, but she warns that identifying what was in it weeks later will be difficult. She immediately calls the hospital for my medical data, including contraction times and labor speed. The hospital discloses records at night within an hour after Ramona threatens a warrant. By midnight, Ramona and I are reviewing my medical file, and the labor nurse's notes show my contractions went from 0 to active labor swiftly. I thought my water broke normally at home, but Ramona says Ashley chemically changed my body, and I didn't realize. David Mitchell and a forensic tech study Ashley's posted films, frame by frame the next morning. Reflections in windows and mirrors show Ashley adjusting her button camera and metadata, indicating she filmed for hours before I noticed I was in labor. We want to sue Ashley, Prime Media, and the hospital. He warns that this will take months and be exhausting, but the evidence is stronger than most. Linda, Ryan's mother, calls to ask why police searched Ashley's apartment that morning. In response to the producer's claims of drugging, premeditation, and past victims, Linda is puzzled and defensive, saying Ashley wouldn't drug someone until Ryan wants to see her Instagram posts. After a long silence, Linda begs for proof to understand what her daughter did. We email her screenshots, and an hour later she calls crying, saying she had no idea Ashley could deceive and violate. She promises to help with the investigation, but I can hear her sorrowful realization that Ashley is a predator. After executing the search warrant, they confiscated 3 laptops, 2 phones, a tablet, and 6 cameras inside Ashley's home around daybreak. The forensic tech found folders, which made Ramona pause. Ashley gained money abusing weak or preoccupied ladies who didn't notice cameras. I uncovered 2-year-old medical crises, sensitive moments, and intimate procedures in dozens of folders grouped by women's names. She sedated ladies at hospitals, clinics, and dentists to upload, negotiate, and seek fetish website content. My hands shook so much I put Ava in her cot. Ramona was attempting to identify the other victims, but many folder names were first names or nicknames. Some females may never discover they were recorded. Because I was connected, Ashley chose me. Ryan arrived home early from work and saw me staring at my phone with Ava crying because I forgot to burp her. He held the baby and listened to my Ramona recitations. When I recommended 2 years of victims, his face turned gray. His sister had made no terrible mistake. An hour later, David reported that the judge granted his emergency plea to block Ashley's bank accounts by midday, freezing the $60,000 she made from my footage until the criminal case was resolved. David requested Prime Media cease showing Ashley's show immediately with an injunction. Prime Media's attorneys fought it out within hours, arguing Ashley signed a contract, and I signed a release. The criminal investigation changed everything. The court scheduled a hearing the next week to determine if Prime Media's contract was fraudulent. David appeared pleased when he said corporate stonewalling usually failed when misconduct was demonstrated. Prime Media's contract was voided by duress or false claims. Ryan's mom phoned that night with a sorrowful voice. Police examined Ashley's conduct over time. Linda, crying, asked whether Ashley could be helped. Ryan clenched his jaw but softly said Ashley wasn't sick. She calculated. The Instagram post demonstrates her thorough preparation for 2 years. Linda stopped, then sought the evidence to stop defending a stranger. The next Tuesday, I had a 6-week postpartum hospital visit. Walking through those automatic doors squeezed my chest, making breathing difficult. Ashley abused me in these corridors, and the staff ignored Emily's warnings. Emily saw me outside the OB office in the corridor, thinner than I remembered and wearing loose scrubs like she'd lost weight from worry. I agreed with her nervous but determined voice and posture. Down the way was an empty consulting room with a desk, 2 seats and healthy pregnant posters. Emily apologized as she closed the door, sounding practiced. She recorded every hidden camera, every complaint to her boss, and every hospital administrative dismissal that day, saving her nursing notes, suspicious recording emails, and Ashley's button camera photos. Emily was placed on administrative leave after speaking to the news, informed she breached patient privacy by discussing my case publicly, but she had everything backed up at home and was eager to testify about the hospital's complete failure to protect me. Her voice trembled as she apologized for not removing Ashley from the room or calling security. Emily offered to connect me to the hospital's patient advocate, but she warned me she usually sided with the institution. The hospital seemed to take patient relations seriously in the advocate's office, a corner room with windows facing the parking lot and nice furnishings. The middle-aged woman in a blazer with a frozen grin directed me to sit and apologize for my situation. She promised policy review but didn't report. She stood up, handed me a business card, and said all future contact must go through the hospital's legal department. Unfortunate situation, instead of violation, reviewing protocols, instead of failure. Emily brought me back to the elevator, apologizing for the meaningless chat. She warned me, but the hospital's rejection was devastating. Security came before videoing my birth. James Thompson wrote formally 2 days later. David's dream was the hospital administrator's defensive, dismissive, and documented response. The hospital claimed it followed all regulations and had no suspicion of illicit taping, but it wouldn't address Emily's concerns or explain why they posted my birth on their website without permission. David smiled as he read it, noting that stonewalling often wrecked defendants in court. This letter would look terrible when Emily testified about being suppressed. Juries hated organizations that covered up apparent mistakes. David immediately subpoenaed all hospital communications about my birth, administrator emails, staff meeting minutes, and their decision to use my delivery for advertising, claiming the institution profited from my violation and failed to protect me. Ryan and I sat behind David at a large table facing the judge the following Thursday at the county courtroom as Prime Media's legal team packed the opposite side with 3 expensive suited lawyers. The wood-paneled formal courtroom was smaller than expected, with a bailiff at the entryway and a court reporter transcribing every Prime Media's senior lawyer declared my release form mandatory regardless of the circumstances, showing me my signature as proof that I was an adult who signed a legal document. David spoke quietly but forcefully. David showed the court my transition films while I was in agony and unable to speak. The judge grew shocked when she witnessed me yell and cry. She went forward and asked Prime Media's lawyer how anyone could say I understood what I signed in that state. Prime Media's lawyer erred by saying birth was natural, and I should have expected to be videotaped in a hospital since they were public places with lower privacy expectations. The judge interrupted him mid-sentence to explain healthcare procedures required informed consent, and hidden cameras were rare. Patients had a right to privacy in critical medical settings, so stating otherwise was absurd. She immediately granted our injunction, stopping Prime Media's broadcasts pending Ashley's criminal prosecution, and ordering Prime Media to store the film in the court for no alteration or distribution. David Mitchell clasped my shoulder as we left the courthouse, and I breathed for the first time in weeks. When Ashley's lawyer called David that afternoon, David said he had been contacted but refused to discuss a plea agreement until we had all the charges. Lawyers don't ask about plea deals when they can win. Later that evening, Ramona Gilmore verified that the district attorney was drafting an indictment for drugging, unlawful recording in a private location, multi-count exploitation of personal photographs, fraud connected to the fake release form, and perhaps more per Ashley's files on other. Ramona said Chandler Bright, the prosecutor, spent hours examining evidence and building something thorough. After weeks of impotence, the criminal case moved quickly. Olivia Scott offered to capture everything for her Netflix series on social media consent violations 3 days later, retaining full editorial control. After Ashley, I was frightened of additional cameras. David offered something we hadn't considered. Ryan and I looked over her emailed contract at the kitchen table. Ashley stated I was envious and unpleasant on social media, and her fans believed her. The documentary may tell her narrative. Two-handed Ryan washed his face. Baby Ava slept in her cradle. The viral videos, memes, and comments criticizing my body came to mind. Strangers saw my weakest side. Controlling the story may feel different. Reclaiming Ashley's narrative may help me recover. David was called to address everything. Olivia included our required protections, and David hailed it the best documentary agreement he'd seen. Signed that night, Olivia and a camera operator and sound technician arrived the following week. She sat up in our living room with calm, non-clinical lighting and asked us to tell what occurred. Ryan gripped my hand as I recalled trusting Ashley throughout labor. Hidden cameras, viral film, finding out she drugged me. Olivia never stopped or deflected. Olivia let me continue. My voice trembled when I stated my finest moment was a meme. She stopped filming and asked if I wanted a break. I took 10 minutes to regroup, then pushed her to start again. I meant to finish. Olivia filmed for 3 hours the first day, asking about emotional, professional, and legal repercussions. I found camera talk odd. Ryan said talking about it helped him feel better when she went. I did too. 2 days later, Ramona contacted regarding Ashley's confiscated files. She found 3 other women's identities and footage like Ashley's of me. Samantha Lewis met with me. Ramona wanted to talk to another victim and gave me her name. Samantha's voice quivered when I called that afternoon. We organized a coffee shop appointment the next morning. I obtained a corner booth early. Samantha came 10 minutes later, nervously searching. Her hands trembled as she sat with tea she rarely drank and told me Ashley injured her. At 16 weeks pregnant, Samantha bled. Ashley, a doula, attended at the hospital. Samantha thought she was helping, but Ashley covertly recorded the miscarriage, Samantha crying, and the doctor informing her she'd lost the baby and sold it to a fetish website. 6 months later, someone recognized her and gave the link. Samantha apologized for crying. I clasped her hand across the table. She was humiliated and never reported it. Family friend Ashley, who would believe someone trusted to help women give birth would record and sell their trauma. She wanted to bring charges immediately. Sam asked if I thought she was dumb for trusting Ashley. Ramona stated this would assist both of us. Ashley's repeated behaviors showed premeditation and predatory behavior. Ramona Gilmore informed us one of the other 2 victims had moved out of state and wasn't answering calls later that week. Ashley calculated and exploited weak women amid medical situations when we couldn't protect ourselves. Traumatized, the woman could not testify. She said Samantha Lewis's name in the case files made her unsuitable for trial. Ramona understood her choice but believed Samantha and I were vital to our case, so we continued. Samantha contacted me that night to stay in touch. I provided a private group chat to complain about the inquiries and share coping strategies. She added me immediately and we started chatting about attorneys and trauma triggers daily. Knowing someone made the process less lonely. Samantha understood what it was like to have outsiders watch your most vulnerable moment. My principal sought a cold, professional discussion regarding my position. Parents concerned about the film. David Mitchell and I visited the principal's office on Tuesday afternoon. She appeared anxious at her desk. 2 school board members were also present. The principal claimed parents contacted constantly after seeing the videos online. David prevented my reply and calmly showed police paperwork, the criminal investigation, and proof that I was drugged and videotaped. One school board member said they had to consider the children's well-being while wanting to revoke my contract. He warned the board that firing me would be criminal punishment against a sexual exploitation victim and that schools had been sued for discrimination. The room quieted. The next week, the school board had a secret session where I told a dozen officials, some of whom seemed anxious and others suspicious, as if I had done something wrong. I described Ashley's betrayal, hidden cameras, drugging evidence, ongoing criminal investigation, at a table facing them, dying inside. Justifying my right to teach because someone violated me felt like being abused again. David described Emily's hidden camera sighting. A board member wondered how this hurt the school's reputation. David said that punishing crime victims for being victimized would tarnish their image more than supporting a competent teacher. We waited 2 hours in the corridor while the board discussed. I heard garbled conversations through the door but couldn't understand. David kept checking his phone and telling me we had a good case. Finally, they called us in. The board decided to end my administrative leave and return me to work. The principal seemed relieved and apologized for parents' responses, promising to write to them explaining I was a crime victim. I kept my job but battling for it after being assaulted left me upset about victim treatment. After being tired, returning to kindergarten seemed unusual. 5-year-olds don't comprehend birth exploitation or viral videos. They only wanted to show me their drawings and stories. I didn't expect their innocence to heal. No one asked where I went. They were delighted I returned. I enjoyed teaching again. Work became my refuge. Legal issues and anguish departed that classroom every morning. I was not the viral birth mother for 6 hours. While I was the fun teacher, Chandler Bright, 40, contacted me to discuss criminal charges. Ryan and I visited his downtown office on Friday afternoon. Chandler charged Ashley with 4 felonies, 3 misdemeanors, drugging assault, unauthorized filming, intimate image exploitation, and fraud. Chandler believed the Instagram postings demonstrating premeditation, the forensic study confirming drugging, Emily's evidence regarding the hidden cameras, and Samantha Lewis's case proving pattern behavior, but he cautioned us that Ashley's counsel would try to paint her as a naive influencer. Ryan gripped my hand as I informed Chandler we were ready for trial, public trauma evaluation, and facing Ashley in court. We wanted Ashley to pay for her abuse of us, Samantha, and the other victims who couldn't come up. Chandler agreed and promised justice. The next morning, Ashley's TikTok account had no videos and her Instagram had 18,000 followers, but no posts. Her lawyer undoubtedly told her to stop, but her admirers continued coming. I was sickened by being branded envious, accused of lying about everything, and trying to damage a woman's career out of spite. Someone even petitioned to dismiss charges. Samantha Lewis emailed me 5 minutes later about the hashtag. I told her I couldn't look, but she reminded me that proof, not online views, counts. Linda wanted to visit Ava that afternoon, her voice sad. Holding the phone in the kitchen, I felt oddly furious and empathetic. Part of me wanted to tell her no, that she raised someone who could poison me and video my birth, but another part remembered that she'd been working with Ramona Gilmore and seemed appalled by her daughter's actions. Ryan took my phone and talked to his mom, then said she deserved a chance. After losing her daughter to jail, she wanted to see her grandchild. I consented, but insisted on limits. She could see Ava but not hold her until I was ready. Ryan agreed and phoned his mom. Linda arrived Saturday morning with 2 gift bags and looked 10 years older. She placed the bags on our coffee table with trembling hands and red, swollen eyes. When she saw Ava in my arms, she cried and apologized, saying she missed the signals and never thought Ashley could be so mean. She gave baby clothes and cuddly animals to make up for her daughter's sins, which felt horrible. Ryan sat next to his mother and gently but firmly told her about Ashley's drugging and filming without consent. Linda nodded and wiped her face with a tissue, acknowledging she couldn't fight anymore. I let her hold Ava for 5 minutes after an hour. She cried. David Mitchell phoned Monday with shocking news. Before I was pregnant, his staff found emails from over a year earlier negotiating a birth content relationship with the fetish website. Ashley promoted his unique access to expectant family members who could deliver victims. She mentioned money, video quality, and camera camouflage in the email. She stated she was having a sibling soon and had been after me for months. Federal authorities probed website administrators for conspiracy and exploitation. David said this proved Ashley was a criminal organization, not just an influencer who made a stupid decision. I hung up and sat on Ava's nursery floor trying to process my sister's almost year-long planning. Every family meal, baby shower, and time she supported me, she plotted to drug and film my delivery for money. 2 days later, Ramona Gilmore called with my teacup forensic results. Ashley had concealed synthetic oxytocin, a medical-grade labor inducer, in my drink. She had bought it months earlier from a veterinary supply business using fake credentials. Ramona suggested prescription drug use and fraud. Physical evidence proved Ashley chemically altered my body to force delivery on her timetable. Ramona asked herself how someone could hurt someone, especially family, after this case began. Despite seeing many crimes in her career, this level of premeditation and treachery was unusual. Olivia Scott interviewed Samantha Lewis and me for a Netflix documentary the following week. Olivia asked how Ashley targeted vulnerable people in medical settings. Samantha told how Ashley was a doula and sold her sadness video. I emphasized the transgression of having someone you trust exploit your body at your weakest. Medical incidents involved privacy and bodily autonomy. Olivia listened closely and asked about our power and activism, not the suffering. I realized this video would help other victims detect abuse and know they're not alone. When Ava was born, my therapist helped me settle a long-standing issue. My therapist said losing my planned birth and Ashley's crimes irrevocably linked to Ava's arrival was convoluted sadness. I kept telling myself to be glad Ava was healthy and that the violation didn't matter compared to having my kid, but she said both may be true. Despite her broken birth, she helped me see Ava as wonderful and independent from the trauma. Every session was slow and made me weep, but some days brought joy. My therapist anticipated long-term ups and downs. Emily wept over the phone one night after the hospital halved her shifts and put her in the worst rotation despite her seniority. She knew her employer had written her up twice for little things in punishment for uncovering the hidden cameras. David added her case to our lawsuit against the hospital, arguing they penalized a whistleblower for exposing ineptitude. Emily was scared her labor and delivery nursing career would be wrecked, but she said she'd do it again because she couldn't remain silent after seeing what happened to me. I told her she was braver than anybody, risking everything for unknown victims. On a cold March morning, Ryan, Samantha Lewis and Ramona Gilmore and I sat in the rear of the courthouse for Ashley's arraignment. Ashley seemed smaller than in her social media videos. Due to her faint voice, the judge ordered Ashley to repeat, "Not guilty," after reading 4 accusations, including assault and recording without permission. If found guilty of all 3, 12 years in jail. The judge set bond at $75,000. Ashley's parents promised their house within an hour. Linda signed the forms with shaking hands, looking sorrowful. Ashley was released with strict conditions: no social media, no victim contact, GPS bracelet, passport surrender. She nodded at each request without looking. 2 days after Ashley left the courtroom with her parents, David Mitchell phoned to invite us to his office. Ryan and I went silently with Ava dozing in her car seat. David's aide took us to a paper-filled conference room. David stopped Ryan from receiving $450,000 from the hospital to settle the civil lawsuit. We signed a non-disclosure agreement to hide what transpired and the hospital's involvement. David reclined and told us to refuse. We had enough evidence to win more in trial, but an NDA would silence us forever. I studied the page number. With $450,000, we could pay off the house, start Ava's education fund, and neglect medical expenses. But I worried about Emily losing her job for speaking up and other women giving birth in that hospital without knowing their privacy may be compromised, so I pushed the paper across the table. Ryan nodded and told David we declined. David grinned and said it was exactly what he expected. Ready for trial. 3 weeks later, David's paralegal brought hospital documents into his office for a discovery review. Emily wasn't the first nurse to oppose to delivery room footage. Administration disregarded a visitor with numerous phones, a lady adjusting a camera in her purse, and a family member suspiciously leaving and returning to the delivery room. David excitedly spread the paperwork on the table. When the hospital ignored privacy warnings, David added systemic negligence to his claim. Hospital representatives seek another settlement meeting within 48 hours. David said we'd consider their offer after removing James Thompson and establishing new privacy precautions. They agreed within a week. They knew a jury would punish them for valuing reputation over patient safety. Ashley breached her bond by making a false TikTok account and uploading victim videos. Case fans understood the messages. Ramona Gilmore phoned 20 minutes later to report locating the account within 48 hours of its formation. Ashley's bond includes social media monitoring, which Ramona's staff checked. Ashley appeared in orange jumpsuit the next morning to request bond revocation. Her lawyer stated she didn't understand the social media prohibition on hidden accounts, but the judge interrupted him. Social media promoted Ashley's career. Ashley cried and held her parents as the bailiff took her away. Chandler visited us in his office to present a plea arrangement in which Ashley would acknowledge 2 crimes and drop the others after Ashley's arrest. Chandler explained math at his conference table. A plea deal guaranteed Ashley 5 years in jail, no acquittal, and no escape. A trial might result in 12 years if we won all charges. Samantha asked Chandler what to do. Chandler remained mute, then claimed the drugging, premeditation, and Instagram planned posts were proof. Chandler and I met again the next week to provide our final decision. The firm owner who abused vulnerable women required more than 5 years. Samantha and I gazed at each other. Ashley's attorney said she needed therapy for social media addiction, not incarceration. They showed her crying, apologizing, and saying she never meant to hurt anyone. Chandler responded with planning paperwork, drugging proof, and many victims. He would prove this was premeditated exploitation, but judges were human and made emotional choices, so they would see Ashley as a misguided young woman rather than a predator. Samantha spoke first. She called 5 years excessive for what Ashley did to her at her lowest point. I agreed. Ashley exploited women in medical difficulties and violated our privacy. 5 years wasn't fair. We persuaded Chandler Bright to reject the plea offer and prepare for trial. Chandler nodded and agreed. Chandler and David Mitchell coordinated criminal and civil cases to support each other's evidence. Ashley's tape had to be evaluated without watching. Trial was 8 weeks away. Chandler's paralegal detailed each file, and I checked whether it matched my work. Exam film showed me completely exposed. Close-ups of crowning. Shouting I wanted to die. Ryan held my hand throughout every review of Ashley's heist. Some nights following the sessions, I couldn't sleep, worrying about strangers watching, my body being sold on fetish websites, and Ava learning about her birth. My evidence was crucial to proving the violation's magnitude. Olivia Scott's Netflix documentary team filmed our trial preparation in David's office, including strategy conversations, witness prep, and the emotional toll of reliving everything. Olivia interviewed trial experts. A psychiatrist said pain and disturbed mental states impair active work consent capacity. A tech specialist showed Ashley's sophisticated, covert camera setup, indicating premeditation. A victim advocate explained the psychological effects of unauthorized photo use. Olivia interviewed other digital abuse victims, online celebrity shattered families, and how courts failed to address crimes that didn't exist 20 years ago. Samantha Lewis's case proceeded as my felony case went to trial. Ashley was charged with many crimes for unlawfully documenting her miscarriage. Ashley's attorney offered 7 and 8 years in plea deals. We refused Chandler's new offer immediately. Ashley's lawyer was frantic as trial approached due to the abundant evidence, but we didn't want to aid her. She drugged and recorded my delivery. Chandler and Ashley's lawyer questioned jurors on social media, influencers, and digital privacy for 3 days. Chandler intentionally rejected pro-influencer, anti-social media, and anti-medical jurors to find those who understood online culture but didn't believe Ashley's addiction defense that she was only making stuff. A retired teacher, software engineer, nurse, construction worker, accountant, store manager, bank teller, mechanic, social worker, librarian, sales rep, and dental hygienist were on our jury after 3 days. Chandler rejected most of Ashley's lawyer's attempts to seat younger jurors who understood influencer pressure. Chandler was pleased. On Monday, trial began. Samantha Lewis sat next to Ryan and me at the prosecution table, while Linda sat opposite from Ashley's lawyer. Everyone stood as the judge emerged. Ashley entered in modest attire. Her lawyer chose to make her look innocent and youthful. She sat without looking at us. Chandler began his opening address in the jury box. He revealed how Ashley secretly turned my birth into a business transaction, including months of planning on her private Instagram, covert cameras, Pitocin drugging to control my labor, and delivery room camera location. Chandler showed the jury Ashley's Instagram posts about Project Birth, a military operation, including giving me medications and filming everything. The jurors were appalled. Chandler's voice was strong as he pledged to show Ashley's premeditated exploitation. After he finished, some jurors looked disgusted with Ashley. The trial began, and we were ready to fight. The next morning I shivered, grabbing my knees, in the witness room with David Mitchell. Chandler returned one more time to encourage me to face the jury directly. Ryan grabbed my hand before calling me in. The courtroom seemed huge as I took the witness stand and swore to the truth. Chandler Bright gently asked me about my pre-AITA relationship with Ashley. I told him I trusted her and that she held my hand in the birth room during my worst pain. He asked about the release paperwork, and I remembered the clipboard she threw at me during transition, and how I was dazed and blind. I broke down when Chandler asked, when I first discovered the videos, remembering witnessing my most vulnerable moment 3 weeks after Ava's birth to millions. He helped me with each offense. The hidden cameras, fetish website and memes from my crowning moment kept me together until he asked how I felt after Ashley drugged me. Explaining that she used my body to produce material brought tears to my eyes. I shakily added that every time I see Ava's birth photographs, I remember covert cameras photographing my nude body for sale and viewing. As the jury sat silent, Ashley's lawyer aggressively cross-examined me, accusing me of exaggerating the incident for sympathy. Brian Mitchell had prepared me, so I kept my cool and corrected each false statement with facts. I calmly explained that hidden cameras are there for a reason and that Ashley had offered to stay with me during a contraction. The lawyer accusingly asked whether I'd benefited from the publicity, if my social media following had risen, and if I'd gained money or prospects. I told the jury that becoming a meme while crowning is not beneficial. Strangers buying my vagina film is not an opportunity. I didn't want attention fighting to keep my teaching job since parents saw me at my worst. I'll never forget having my most vulnerable moment stolen and sold. No amount of following or attention can undo this. The lawyer asked more questions, but Brian's preparation was meticulous, and I wouldn't let him distort my words or diminish Ashley's conduct. I spoke the truth. My legs felt like rubber as I stepped down. Emily testified next, wearing a modest frock instead of her nurse garb and gripping her hands tightly. After 8 years in labor and delivery, Emily described Ava's birth with precision. Chandler asked Emily when she first noticed something odd. Emily said she saw Ashley change something on her blouse that looked like a camera lens, the coffee cup at a suspicious angle, and the pocketbook with a hole looking at me. After her supervisor dismissed her concerns, Emily's voice rose. The hospital administrator told her to focus on her job and avoid causing problems, but she argued that patients had a right to privacy during medical procedures. The front-row older lady juror shook her head in disdain as Emily described being silenced by institutional interests and watching a patient be raped while her concerns were ignored. Emily was sanctioned for speaking to the media and protecting a patient after the tapes went public. Chandler asked Emily whether she'd documented her fears, and Emily gave out a folder of time-stamped notes from that day listing each camera she'd seen and each time she'd tried to interfere. The evidence against Ashley and the hospital revealed medical personnel observed the infringement in real time. Samantha Lewis testified after lunch that she met Ashley at a pregnancy loss support group and that Ashley volunteered to be her doula during the miscarriage to help people through difficult medical conditions. Sam broke down as she recounted the 16-week miscarriage, its physical and mental anguish, with Ashley holding her hand and promising to assist. 6 months later, Samantha was sent a link to a fetish website selling her miscarriage tape. The jurors were horrified when Samantha told Chandler about her and my hidden cameras, sensitive medical times, violation of trust, sale to fetish website, and fraudulent permission claims. Ashley abused vulnerable women's sensitive moments during medical procedures after befriending them. After showing the Pitocin in my teacup, Ashley's fake veterinarian credentials, and the chronology showing my labor began within hours of drinking her tea, the prosecution rested. Ashley's lawyer shuffled papers without looking at anybody. Sad. Brian Mitchell anticipated Ashley to testify the next morning. Narcissism wouldn't let her stay silent or let her lawyer tell the story. She looked young and innocent in a soft pink sweater with minimum makeup and a ponytail. She cried and shook as she apologized for being caught up in influencer culture, saying she was drafting birth education papers and believed I'd like it. Chandler Bright had Ashley read the Project Birth Instagram post during cross-examination. The jury were torn on her portrayal as a victim of social media pressure, someone who made wrong mistakes but deserved forgiveness. Ashley groused that she panicked and erred when Chandler asked about the veterinarian supply fraud and fetish website encounters. She didn't know the site's kind. Chandler gave Ashley emails about content categories and price to prove she knew what and to whom to market. When asked about Samantha Lewis, Ashley said she was younger and didn't know better. Chandler cut down every explanation, minimized, or justified until Ashley sobbed on the stand, showing the jurors her premeditation and intentional brutality. After Ashley resigned, the defense called a social media addiction specialist to testify judgment and that her compulsive need for online acceptance impaired her decision-making, like gambling addiction. He claimed her urge to create and get admirers was overwhelming. Chandler's 30-year psychiatrist gently refuted the addiction thesis, stating that Ashley's premeditation wasn't caused by addiction and that compulsion doesn't take months to arrange an exploit. She described deliberate acts, fake credentials, hidden camera purchases, and fetish website talks. No judgment or control flaws were shown. Someone was using vulnerable ladies for profit. When the psychiatrist stressed that Ashley's conduct was antisocial personality traits, not addiction, and that her tears on the stand were manipulation rather than sorrow, several jurors nodded, giving me hope that they could see through Ashley's performance. Chandler testified Friday afternoon that Ashley drugged me to control when my daughter was born to acquire better material. The courtroom was packed with media and bystanders. Every piece of evidence, witness testimony, and intentional cruelty in Ashley's strategy was investigated. Chandler pleaded with the jury to punish Ashley for every decision, violation, and life she damaged for online fame and money. Ashley's counsel decided that his client was young and misled to seek sympathy. He begged the jury to show mercy since Ashley had apologized and expressed regret, but after what the jury had seen and heard, his cries for compassion for someone who'd shown none to her victims seemed hollow. The jury deliberated for 7 hours while we waited in a separate room down the hall. As Samantha Lewis passed the window and Brian Mitchell checked his phone, Ramona Gilmore told us twice that the long deliberation showed they were taking the charges seriously and reviewing all the evidence. The jury verdict call came around 6 p.m. Judge entered and asked the foreperson to stand. The 60-year-old retired teacher steadily held the verdict form. First count, unauthorized recording, guilty. Second count, intimate image dissemination, guilty. Linda wept across the aisle as her daughter was convicted on all charges. Ashley cringed as the judge thanked the jurors and sentenced her to 3 weeks in prison. For the first time since this nightmare began, I thought justice might prevail. Chandler Bright called 2 days later to discuss sentence, saying the judge would review sentencing guidelines after both parties presented impact statements and suggestions. He asked me to submit a victim impact statement outlining how Ashley's activities had affected my life to help the judge understand the full extent of the damage beyond legal transgressions. I spent the following week redrafting to emphasize Ashley's theft without looking vindictive or angry. Ashley's actions had lasting impacts, I wanted the judge to know. Therapy, phone panic attacks, and knowing hidden cameras were taping Ava's birth photographs were covered. I wrote about trying to keep my teaching job, memes that still circulate online, strangers who bought film of my most vulnerable moment, and how she drugged me and took away my choice over when and how my child was born. Brian Mitchell thought my statement was forceful and honest, just what the judge needed. Ashley appeared wearing the same modest clothing from trial, her cheeks puffy from crying. When the court requested me to make my statement, I shakily proceeded to the platform with my printed pages. I told Ashley how she made my most painful time into entertainment while I read. I kept my calm as I mentioned that Ava's birth photographs make me tremble since hidden cameras were shooting my exposed body. I told the judge Ashley chemically controlled my body to generate content, stopping me from selecting when and how my child was born. Parents saw my most raw and broken self on their phones, so I struggled to educate. I informed them that others had seen parts of me my spouse hasn't, that my crowning moment became a meme shared by thousands, and that this violation will damage my safety and trust forever, even if the videos disappear. Ashley cried without looking at me, jerking her shoulders as I told her about her misdeeds. Samantha Lewis then took the stage to discuss the 16-week loss, shivering but strengthening. Ashley disguised herself as a doula to secretly record her biggest loss, which she rediscovered 6 months later on the same fetish site, watched people buy, and experienced her suffering. Samantha disclosed medical trauma, treachery, and pregnancy loss profiteering as the judge moved closer, apparently worried. Samantha stared at Ashley after finishing and hoped jail would teach her that suffering isn't content. The courtroom was quiet as Samantha returned to her seat beside me and I held her hand while the judge checked her notes. The judge spent many minutes reviewing sentencing guidelines and Brian Mitchell's evidence binders. She said the premeditation, drugging, serial victim exploitation, and sale of personal material showed predatory behavior, not bad judgment. The penalty was 12 years in prison with release after 8 and lifelong sex offender registration for distributing personal photos without consent. Ashley's attorney immediately asked the judge to reconsider, saying the sentence exceeded the plea agreement, but the judge ruled the aggravating elements justified it. Ryan's arm wrapped around me as the words hit me. Brian Mitchell walked us to his car without speaking while reporters with cameras and microphones watched Ashley and Linda cry as the bailiff arrested them. 2 months after Brian Mitchell utilized Emily's evidence, administrators' disdain for recording objections, and expert testimony on patient privacy standards to prove hospital negligence, the civil trial began. After 5 days of testimony, Brian won. Emily found the hidden cameras, contacted her supervisor, and was told to mind her own business because the family was pleased. Emily said the supervisor threatened her job if she persisted, and that she took detailed, contemporaneous notes of every interaction. When the hospital's lawyers tried to portray her as prejudiced or seeking publicity, Emily was calm and accurate. She showed emails showing she expressed concerns within 2 hours of my delivery, before any backlash. Brian Mitchell called the 3 nurses who'd reported unusual recording in earlier births. Their evidence showed administrative disregard for patient privacy. The hospital administrator rejected Emily's concerns and seemed uncomfortable when Brian asked why family dispute trumped patient safety. The jury viewed film of my birth on the hospital's advertising website and heard testimony about how quickly they capitalized without my consent. Brian concluded that hospitals must protect vulnerable people even in tough situations. After 11 hours of debate, the 4 women found patient privacy, whistleblower retaliation, and no filming breaches, totaling $2.1 million in compensation and punitive damages. Emily received $400,000 for career loss and revenge, and Brian Mitchell wasn't concerned when the hospital's attorneys appealed immediately. He said the evidence was overwhelming, and the jury's verdict supported. 3 weeks after the hospital judgment, Prime Media's attorneys offered Brian a settlement that included no broadcast plans, an unknown advocacy fee, and permanent deletion of all material from their servers. The settlement figure was enough to sustain years of agitation for other victims, and I signed the arrangement with relief that at least part of this agony was ended. Federal authorities arrested fetish website operators for conspiracy to exploit personal photos and transmit non-consensual data. Ashley is deliberately recruited to covertly record vulnerable women during medical procedures. To avoid trial, the owners committed to permanently remove exploitative content from their servers, reimburse victims, and assist with similar website investigations. Brian Mitchell helped me file a restitution claim, but he warned that the operators had hidden most of their income in overseas accounts, so compensation would be small. Olivia Scott's Netflix documentary, which aired 6 months after Ashley's imprisonment, was 90 minutes long and focused on systemic issues rather than personal pain. Olivia Scott interviewed legal experts on medical privacy gaps, medical ethicists on informed consent in vulnerable contexts, and social media exploitation victims who shared their stories. Samantha Lewis and I were featured, however Olivia Scott followed our filming and framing choices. The video began with facts about non-consensual intimate image sharing, then used our experiences to highlight how social media fosters violation and how institutions prioritize reputation over victim safety. Reviews felt it was important to address consent in the digital age. We were surprised when state lawmakers and advocacy organizations approached us to create medical privacy regulations and work on awareness campaigns. Social media users commended you for speaking out and demanding stricter rules. Like our tragedy was meaningful, not just entertainment. My compensation money helped me form the Medical Privacy Legal Fund, which represents healthcare victims of intimate picture exploitation for free. Samantha Lewis became co-director, and Brian Mitchell found pro bono or low-cost attorneys. Our victims' rights tools, guidance to reporting abuses, and self-defense legal papers healed better than therapy. Every victim felt like we were seizing Ashley's power, transforming our violation into help. In 6 months, we hired a small team, acquired office space, and helped 43 victims file complaints, lawsuits, or criminal charges against exploiters. Like mine, several cases involved hidden delivery filming or non-consensual medical treatments or exams. Each narrative showed how widespread this violation was and how many victims suffered in silence because they didn't know they had options. After Ashley's imprisonment, Linda felt terrible for ignoring warning signs and anguished over losing her daughter to jail. I joined Ryan and his parents' family therapy after several sessions. Linda confessed for questioning me, making excuses, and bailing Ashley. The therapy helped her manage complicated emotions without blaming me. I told her trust would take time to repair after accepting her apologies. She held her ground and focused on Ava without demanding more than I was comfortable offering. She became a loving grandma who attended Ava's milestones, babysat when needed, and bought meaningful gifts instead of forgiveness. When Linda wept watching Ava blow out candles at her second birthday party, I realized I was starting to separate Linda from Ashley's behaviors. She didn't commit the crimes, so punishment wouldn't change anything. We were creating something new and sustainable, but never as close. After reading about the whistleblower retaliation case, the nursing director hired Emily to work at a nearby hospital with strong patient advocate policies and a reputation for taking privacy violations seriously. At nursing conferences, Emily stressed the importance of protecting vulnerable patients. Her selection to our Legal Funds Advisory Board helped us understand healthcare systems and institutional barriers to reporting breaches. We had coffee every couple weeks, and she stated speaking out was the hardest but most important thing she'd ever done. She lost friends at her previous hospital who thought she betrayed it, and the career disruption was stressful, but she had no regrets. Her bravery inspired other doctors to report privacy violations, creating a ripple effect of accountability. 2 nurses from different hospitals asked her about reporting suspicious recordings after hearing the video. 2 years after her birth, I was teaching again, organizing the legal fund with Samantha Lewis and watching my kid become a joyful toddler who didn't understand what happened. Emily introduced them to Brian Mitchell and our legal fund, which changed their institution's policies. I still shuddered when people pulled out phones, had dreams about hidden cameras, and felt terrible when I read Ashley's name in court documents, but I'd built a life around the tragedy. Our legal fund helped over 200 victims in 2 years, and our documentary influenced 4 state laws. Emily taught nurses nationwide about patient privacy. Ryan and I had grown closer through everything, and after such a violation, we wanted another child and the personal sacred experience we'd been denied. Switch hospitals, tighten limitations, and believe our birthroom visitor instincts. I smiled back as Ava grinned from her blocks. I learned that healing isn't about erasing or denying the violation altered me. Although part of me will always be in that delivery room wondering how someone I trusted could betray me so completely, I should build something meaningful from the wreckage and go forward.